We ask all listeners to gamble responsibly. All odds and tips mentioned in this podcast are personal opinions and used in reference to the Kindred brands. Welcome to Game Week 8 of the Kindred Kickoff podcast. Today I'm joined with Niklas, our Guinness World Record holder, and Rohan. Ready to roll?
All good here, ready?
All good. What a week.
Fantastic. What a week indeed. We're going to crack straight on with some of the controversy, really, surrounding the Tottenham-Liverpool game. Where do you start with this one, guys? There's a lot to dissect.
Yeah, I think I watched it with my dad, who's a Liverpool fan. He couldn't really believe his eyes. So that was a start. I think if you dissect it, right, it sucks to talk about refs. I think they should be a non-factor, but in this one, it's hard to not talk about it. I think the goal, clear and obvious mistake. I think everyone has sort of agreed to that being a mistake. And honestly, in this day and age, I cannot understand how that is allowed to happen.
With technology as well.
Yeah. With technology, and it just seemingly like a number of things that are overlooked, because honestly it's not just one person's fault that this becomes a shit show.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that like the red card on Jones, I think was fair enough.
Yeah.
That one, I can see why they're complaining. Like, it was obviously no intent. He slipped on the ball a bit, but it could have ended up with a bad injury for Basuma. But the offside, I think, was one of the most unbelievable things I think I've seen in years. I'm not really sure how they managed to do that. I know they've said that the confusion was the VAR said check complete, thinking it was a goal and not offside. Yeah, I think Liverpool are fair to complain.
We had similar last season, didn't we? When we had Brentford Arsenal, and that was a goal that got chalked in the end. But yeah, obviously, being a Man United fan, it was nice to see the Scousers lose, even though I couldn't take too much joy out of the weekend with Man City and Liverpool losing. That's the other result that we wanted to discuss. Obviously, Man City with a shock result, losing 2-1 to Wolves. We pretty much skipped over it last week because we thought there was nothing to see here. But that's back-to-back defeats for Man City, losing in the cup and then obviously losing to Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kind of obvious line to draw with those two performances and results is no Rodri in either of those two games. I think I read a stat, something about 70 games he's played and they've lost 5. And then 15 games without him and they've lost 5. So he's obviously key to knitting the whole team together. And without him, they look like they've struggled to kind of control the middle of the park as much as they would. I know in a few shows we've talked about Pedro Neto for Wolves. Again, he was great goal on Saturday. So
what a goal!
Yeah, can't just say City were crap. Wolves obviously had some excellent performances and had a bit of a plan, but yeah, shock result obviously.
Yeah, I think it goes to show that with all the additional stats and data, etc., XG is still, there should be an underline of the X in expected, because this one again, it's like Man City should have won this game when you look at all the stats, and that goes for more of the games throughout the weekend. But that's the charm with football, I think. And again, it is good to at least see that Man City aren't winning all the games as a Man United fan or a neutral, really, because that is part of the fun, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as I said earlier, it was very difficult for me to take any enjoyment out of this week's fixtures for obvious reasons. The football hipster derby, as I mentioned last week, Brighton, Aston Villa, we picked both teams up massively, and we saw a humiliation for Brighton. How do you dissect this one, guys? I don't think any of us called this.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to call. I think maybe at one of the last times I was on, I kind of mentioned that, like, watching Brighton a lot, they kind of play a style of football where when it goes right, it goes really right, and then there are other games where maybe their passing isn't as slick through the lines and their defensive spaces are a bit too wide, and teams can just walk through them. We kind of saw that with West Ham earlier in the season, and it just felt like one of those times where they on the ball were a bit sloppy, and Villa just punished them kind of over and over and over. I don't know, maybe there's something to De Zerbi kind of changing his lineup pretty significantly every game as well. But I don't know. I think they're just, again, one of those teams where when it goes right, it's amazing. And then there are games where it goes wrong and it kind of snowballs the other way.
We did mention that, I think it was on the previous week, that it's going to be a big challenge trying to juggle European football, not only then, but also Aston Villa and the likes of Newcastle that might not have had that previously. And, that might come to show later in the season. Anything from your side, Nicholas, on that humiliation?
No, I think we definitely built up Aston Villa before the season, and I think they've scored a lot of goals, and they've actually conceded a lot of goals as well. And prior to this game, it was without the contribution of Ollie Watkins. He's now opened his account with three goals in the bag, so that might set them off to score even more. And I think they're an entertaining bunch, which is not really what we saw from Unai Emery's Villarreal when he was there. And neither do I think we saw that from his Arsenal side when he managed them. So I think it's an entertaining side, Aston Villa, and so are obviously Brighton, which I think we've covered in previous pods.
For sure. I'm just going to quickly, before we jump into all the spicy stuff, I'm just going to quickly give a shout out to Luton, who were written off for weeks on end, picking up their first 3 points. So, kudos to them, because obviously, like I said, we've completely battered them on this podcast. But it was nice to see them get their first win. And obviously, against the Everton side that were picking up a little bit of form. So, another surprise to pull out the bag there. Yeah. Right, so we will crack on with matchday 8. There is actually one other game that goes on this week. So, Luton will be playing Burnley tonight. That's also part of the Premier League fixtures.
Yeah.
Obviously, as I mentioned, Luton did pick up their first 3 points. They're at home to Burnley. Boys, have we got anything on this?
No, I mean, not for me. I think obviously they played each other last year in the Championship a couple times. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't think that's much of a surprising stance. It'd be interesting. Like Burnley, I think this is one of the teams where they can actually kind of impose their possession style on a bit more. And Luton will be kind of looking to play direct on the counter and physical and set pieces. So yeah, for me, I'd probably be backing the unders, and I would probably go on something like a Burnley 1-0, just because I think Burnley, this is a game they absolutely have to win. These are the sort of games they need to win to stay up, which is true for both. But I think this game is one of the ones where they can actually play kind of the style the company wants them to play. But yeah, it's very tough to call.
I agree with you, though. I think this is one where Burnley can actually show their true colours. And I think Luton will be lulled into a full sense of security after winning that game. And I know that might sound stupid, because they should be elated and having won 3 points against Everton, at least on paper a bigger team. But I do think that that's exactly what might be the downfall against the Burnley who are desperate to start winning some games. And as you said, they played each other in the Championship, and I think they won't be taken aback by the weird stadium of Luton's. So I think they will be quite comfortable in this one. And 250 for a Burnley win, I think is decent value.
Not bad.
Nice. And then obviously skipping ahead to this week, Luton again, sorry. Luton will be the early kickoff on Saturday. They play Tottenham at home. So it's a double home fixture for them. I think we see a Spurs win again, right? They're looking pretty buoyant. Obviously got that last minute winner against Liverpool, which they seem to have a habit of. Obviously they got that last minute winner a few weeks back with Kulusevski as well. So there is momentum there. I still have question marks over Tottenham whether they can sustain it, but this is a favourable fixture for them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's hard to really look past. So I think they're 1.44 with Unibet to win. I think, to be honest, I think Luton have a chance to make a bit of a game of it. I think they're obviously, like I said, they're really physical and direct. To be fair to Tottenham, they've actually looked all right defending the counter. They have a lot of speed at the back. But I think, it's obviously a tough place for teams to come to play. It's a bit of a bowl, like the fans are right on top of you. So the kind of what I've looked at here is I think both teams will score, but I think it'll be Tottenham 3-1, 4-1 maybe. I think they'll pile on the goals at the end. There's under Postecoglou they kind of keep going. So that BTTS and over 3.5 goals is 2.9. And then on the shots front, I think there's some serious value with Carlton Moore's shots. He just is their kind of main man up front. Everything kind of goes through him. He's obviously on penalties, and he's, as soon as he picks the ball up at the edge of the box, really he's looking to shoot every time. And he's still 1.98 for a shot on target. And then on the other side, I think I'll be back in Pedro Porro. I know shot on target is 2.3. I think the way Luton's set up, they kind of play a flat back five in defence. And Tottenham, I think Udogie and Porro are really going to get forward into the central areas, and they'll probably have a few opportunities to get some shots off. So I think there's some value there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the general way of Tottenham to play with the little through balls from Maddison might not find Son in a game like this. So I think it actually will be more contested than what you would have thought just looking at the table. But I share your view on sort of the shots, and I think for me I can see a lot of corners for Tottenham if they fail to break through Luton early on. Then I think they're just going to pile on the pressure, and Luton are happily going to take that and absorb it, which can probably generate a lot of corners. And it could be interesting to look at someone like Romero to score or to have a shot on target live. I think pre-match he's 11 to score, which is it's feisty, but I would wait to take that until live, because if they score a goal early on, I think that's a completely different game.
The next game is a classic, a 6-pointer potentially. Fulham, Sheffield United.
Yeah, I watched a bit of the Fulham game yesterday. I thought they were pretty poor, to be honest. They kind of didn't really turn up against Chelsea. And
Chelsea are putting two past you, you're in trouble, right?
Yeah, I mean, even Mudryk, man.
Mudryk.
Mudryk, yeah. It would have been good to have Benji on this, because he was tipping Mudryk to get a couple of goals and assists early, so he's off the mark now.
Yeah, officially. I mean, not to go too far into that game, but he actually looked poor in that game. Like, he's dribbling out of play, his passing was terrible, but it was a nice goal. So yeah, gotta give it to him on that. In this game, I kind of struggle. I think Fulham were quite big favourites, considering how they haven't really been that impressive in the games I've seen. Sheffield United, obviously losing 8-0 at home, probably doesn't kind of paint you in the best light in the eyes of the people setting the markets, but I don't think they're that bad. I think it'll be a close game, but in terms of results, there's not really much I would go for. The kind of angle I'm taking on this game is Sheffield United over 2.5 cards is just above evens. They average 3 yellows a game. I think in this game, in a tight one, I would probably guess that they would be trying to, time waste a few little fouls here and there. So I think that's an angle. I had a look just before, and the refereeing today, I think it was Darren England was meant to be the ref. So they've taken him off the game after the VAR disaster last week. And it's actually going to be a ref who's never reffed in the Premier League. So I think, it might be that a case where the ref kind of loses control or wants to stamp his authority a little bit. So yeah, I think Sheffield United over 2.5 cards will be my play on this one.
Okay.
Nicholas, anything from your side on this one?
I'm sorry, but this is not sexy enough for me.
No, I agree. There are a few fixtures like the next one that I'm going to mention that aren't really tickling my fancy. So Burnley, Chelsea is the next game that we're previewing.
Yeah.
That could go either way as well,
Well.
Burnley at home.
Yeah, I mean, this one, again, like Chelsea are about 1.66 as of now. It's tough to really back them at that kind of price away from home. But again, Burnley, like we said earlier, they play kind of an open style. Maybe that is favourable to Chelsea. Maybe they can get on the break a bit. But yeah, it all depends. Like, it's hard to really tell how Pochettino's going to set them up. Obviously, yesterday Sterling didn't start and Palmer was on the right. I think there is probably some value in Palmer shots and goals. He seems to be pretty willing to pick up the ball and have a shot whenever he can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in terms of result, that's a stay away for me, really.
Yeah, same for me here. I think Chelsea have become what people said about Man City in fantasy. It's like the pep roulette. For me, it's the POC roulette now.
Yeah.
When it comes to who is he going to field, how are they going to play, I just can't call it.
Yesterday I was watching and that guy Dizazi who they signed, he's a right back, so he's playing at centre back. Colwell's a centre back, he was playing at left back, and Cucurella is a left back and he's playing at right back. I just can't really figure out what.
Yeah.
I can't really figure
There's
out
all
what's
sorts
going on.
going there. Speaking of all sorts going on, Loved Man United play Brentford at home on Saturday.
I will be going to this match. Just word of advice, I think I had 8 straight home matches for Man United where they didn't score. Wow. So, yeah, absolute shambolic.
You've been to 8 United games and they've not scored?
I've been to definitely double digits, but I had 8 on the trot where they didn't win and they didn't score. I think they averaged about two shots on target across those games.
Where was this? Was this in the Moyes Van Gaal area? Or was this?
It was also during Ollie. So yeah, I'm definitely done my fair share of fans' despair up at Old Trafford. But I do think that this one, 2 bets on it, and I'm going to stay away from the outcome or anything positive to Man United because it will be double heartburn. I think Casemiro to get a card against a counter-attack in Brentford feels like a given at 3.45. Same with Diogo Dalot, 4.25. That combination gives me a 10.50 of player cards. I think that's spicy. That's the first one of today. And Brentford should be a team that are actually quite well equipped to play against Man United at Old Trafford.
Yeah, that's my worry. I feel like the Palace loss was the worst of the season by far.
Yeah.
The other ones you can make kind of excuses for, but Palace was... You don't lose to Palace at home.
No.
No serious, no disrespect to Palace, but yeah, that was shocking.
That was Roy Hodgson's 5th straight game at Old Trafford without a loss.
Yeah, they are a bit of a bogey team, to be fair.
Yeah.
I remember against Ollie, they always used to be Ollie's United as well.
Yeah.
Anything from your side, Rohan?
Not really. I had a look both times since Brentford have come up. United have won this game 2-0 at home. Yeah, I think I've watched Brentford.
We've got a good record against them at home. Away
away is a different story. But I watched a couple. They've been on TV a couple times the past couple of weeks. I actually don't think they've been very good since the start. They had a good little run first few weeks of the season. They've been quite poor. They haven't really had much threat. But again, it's tough to say.
They seem a bit more one-dimensional now, obviously without Tony as well.
I think the other thing that maybe kind of make me want to kind of disregard that is those 2 games that I watched. They were home against Everton, home against Forest, and those were the games where they are probably expected to kind of carry the play, and that's probably not their strength. So, away United, like you said, it probably suits them a lot better. But yeah, I mean, I'm expecting United win, but I was expecting United win last week too. So yeah,
let's look at
specific bet for me there.
Ourselves, boys. Another one. There's some really until I get to later on. There's some really unglamorous fixtures here.
I think I was having a little look at this game. Everton, I thought they'd kind of sorted themselves out a little bit. I was expecting a kind of routine win at home against Luton after they kind of they dismantled Brentford a little bit at their place. Didn't happen. But I think Bournemouth are probably the worst defensive team, other than the worst non-promoted defensive team in the Premier League. They were terrible against Arsenal. I can't really work out what they're doing. They seem to be committing 6 people on every press, and then one pass gets a 4-on-3, 3-on-2 situation against them. So I can't I'm not really sure what the plan is.
I've got no sympathy for it because I think Gary O'Neill did such a good job last season. Yeah. And he's doing a decent job at Wolves now with no sign, no money. What were they thinking?
Yeah, I'm not really sure either.
They got at it?
I'm not really sure. If you saw some of the clips against Arsenal, one pass takes about 7 players out of the game.
Yeah, that's it.
It's incredible, really. So again, on result, I'm not actually sure. I know Everton are priced as pretty decent favourites. The angle that I've kind of taken here is Abdoulaye Doucouré is playing a much more advanced position in the Severn team, kind of playing off the forward, which is Calvert-Lewin now that Beto's kind of gone to a role as an impact sub. So I think this sort of game might suit Decore specifically as the kind of late man arriving into the box. He's also throwing set pieces. So he is 2.18 for a shot on target, and he is 5.5 to score anytime, which I think are my tips on this game. The result could go either way. I have no clue.
That's a really good shout. I've watched him play for Everton, and as you say, definitely a more advanced position. But hey, what's a pod without mentioning Calvert-Lewin, the man who scored against Luton? I was on it. There were some scenes in the sofa at my place when he scored a goal. He's 255 to score against Bournemouth. As you say, terrible defensively. To score 2 is 850. Both teams to score, and Calvert-Lewin to score is 345. Bring on the cheese. Let's go. Come on.
He's looked really good, to be fair to him. Like, coming back from that injury, he's getting him behind. He's a threat, obviously, in the air every time. Like, he looks very
Let's
good.
give it another week, and then you'll be injured for another 6 months. So let's enjoy it when we can.
Yeah,
exactly.
Calvin-Lewin appreciation pod. Moving on to the next fixture, another glamour game is Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I mean this one's tough.
Don't worry, boys. It gets spicy after this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I can't really sign off on any particular bet here. The pricing's a bit. Yeah, the pricing's a bit strange. Like, Palace are just above evens to win. They're obviously under 2.5 goals is 1.67. I think, well, it's clear that people aren't expecting a very exciting game. It's going to be tight and low scoring. And then again, like Forest, I'm not really sure who's going to play every week. Gibbs White didn't start the other day. I assumed he was nailed on to play every game.
Dang.
And then Palace up front, Edouard's injured, I think. He didn't play last weekend. So I'm not really sure about particular players and matchups that can kind of focus on. So yeah, I'm staying away.
Do we just settle for a draw here? 335.
Yeah,
that's always good
that
for
sounds
Palace.
Right. I mean, I'm tempted to just go for a 0-0. It's, it's a fun bet when you're watching a 5:30 game to be betting on 0-0, but I can't really see anything else that I kind of like. Yeah, I think Forest would be happy with the 0-0. Palace don't score that many goals.
They were only going to beat us last week with a worldie, weren't they? They scored a worldie. Otherwise, there was no way they were scoring in that game.
For the superstitious ones, or for the ones trying to find patterns, whichever corner you want to be in. So, Crystal Palace have got identical runs of win, loss, draw twice, and they started the third cycle with a win against Man United. Is this a loss? At 360, who am I to say?
Yeah.
But it's a sign.
I like that. Right, who's ready for the big games?
Yeah.
Let's get stuck in.
Yep.
Brighton, Liverpool, Sunday, 2:00.
I mean, again, it depends on both teams. Who knows what team's going to show up? I think Liverpool will edge it, because I actually think Liverpool have been quite good. I say that like it's surprising. They have been good.
I think going forward, but I think defensively they're shocking.
Yeah. Again, I think their midfield seems to be a little bit more put together these past few weeks. I mean, I'm impressed by this Shabazz guy, how much ground he seems to cover in there. McAllister hasn't really shown what he kind of kind of level he was at Brighton, but they look a lot better. I think everyone's expecting goals. The goal line's really high for that game. I'm going back to Luis Diaz to score. He's 2-1 to score anytime. Don't know. I can't really back it up with any specific stat. He's been very involved. He takes a lot of shots. He gets in behind. And we know Brighton leave a lot of space behind their fullbacks. And maybe it'll just be a bit of justice after that goal was taken away last week.
Yeah. I mean, this should be one where it all happens, right? Corners, cards, goals, penalties, VAR controversy. I think I've gone for one such bet builder, which is over 3.5 goals, over 1.55 team goals for Liverpool, over 3.5 cards. McAllister to have a shot on target. Remember, he's playing against his old team, and he doesn't hate a shot, if we put it like that. and over 9.5 corners. That gives me 12.5. I think that's a bit of fun. Add Darwin Nunez, who I think will start this game with a shot on target as well, and we have 15. 15 is fun. Might go for that. Because again, I can't see this being a dull game. That just doesn't happen. It will be end to end.
The result last year, I think Brighton might have battered them like 4-1 last year.
I beat him a couple of times in the FA Cup as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I think everyone's expecting a lot.
Yeah.
Goals, cards. But yeah, I've gone for Diaz.
Both teams also have Europa League this week as well. So
yeah,
let's
I
see
think
how
I think that's
affects the
in Liverpool's
performance.
favour. I think that's in Liverpool's favour because I think Brighton will be playing their strongest team. I think they play Marseille away, whereas I think Liverpool will rotate.
That's tough.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about Liverpool is that I actually, to sustain a proper title challenge, I don't think they've got the depth to do it this year, especially with Europa League. But again, we'll see how that develops in the coming months. Next game is West Ham Newcastle.
Yeah. Bowen to score 375. That's my contribution to this one.
Yeah, I'm actually going along the same lines. I think Newcastle play PSG in the Champions League. Everyone is aware. They're going to be going full pelt for that. They're not going to rest. It's going to be probably a big emotional game with the fans and all the build-up. So I could see a bit of a letdown away at West Ham. I think West Ham, again, been pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. They've been pretty solid. They've had actually a fairly tough run of games as well. So I am going to have West Ham to win 3.25. If you add Bowen to score to that, it becomes 6.25. And I think Bowen has a favourable matchup there. It'd probably be Dan Burn at left back and Jamal Lascelles next to him at centre back with Botman injured, which isn't obviously as solid. I think from Botman to Lascelles is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And then if you put that with both teams to score, so West Ham to win, Bowen to score, and both teams to score, it is 8-1, which I quite like.
There's a new spice sheriff in town. Look at this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Agreed.
I think for that particular matchup, the odds aren't out yet, but Koufal has had 2 assists of late, I think. And he'd be an interesting one to pick out as probably a favourable link up there on the right hand side for West Ham against a weakened centre / fullback.
And also Anthony Gordon suspended. He actually tracks back a lot for that left wing spot. So I can see that being good angle in.
One of the going back to not so sexy ties, Wolves versus Aston Villa.
But this is quite sexy as a Birmingham derby. I think two teams who...
You know what? You're right. I've been completely dismissive there.
Yeah, I think it tends to be quite a feisty one. And I know that, I mean, they're in different territories of the table this year with Wolves prior to the Man City game not doing much. But obviously, spurred on by that win, I think they've looked lively in all their games, doing something, and then they've sort of fallen apart. I've gone for a red card given in this game, 25, because there are some hot-headed players in these two teams. I don't even know who's going to get the red card, but I feel like there might be one. And I've also looked at both teams to score in over 3.5 goals at 3.05, because, again, Villa's games have been, goal fests.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I haven't. There's nothing I really kind of picked out on this game. I think the prices are, for the result, are pretty tough to get. Right now, Villa are about 2.1 to win away at Wolves. But yeah, I mean, I think there are two teams that, especially Wolves in midfield, kind of kick the crap out of everyone. So I could definitely see some cards being handed out. Yeah.
So on to the pick of the week this week, Arsenal Man City. Obviously Arsenal at home, Man City off the back of 2 defeats, back-to-back defeats. Pep always seems to get one over on Arteta. How are we seeing this, boys?
You want to go first?
No, you can start. You can start.
Yeah, look, they obviously have a great record against Arsenal with Arteta in charge. I think this game last year, when Rodri scored last minute. Am I thinking of the right game? When Arsenal were probably the better team and they ended up losing 2-1 last minute. Actually, no, that was 2 seasons ago.
Right.
We'll have to edit that out. Last season, the away game at Arsenal, I think it was 4-1, and Holland scored twice.
All right, yeah,
De
that was
Bruyne
a stop.
scored that. De Bruyne scored that lob over Ramsdale. For me, I think I kind of alluded to it a bit earlier. And no Rodri in the team, I think is, you can't really understate how big of a miss that is for them. There's obviously no De Bruyne either. I would probably be backing Arsenal draw no bet, which is evens. I think they'll get a result. And then obviously that Rodri missing in the middle, he's been replaced by Calvin Phillips in the past couple games. I'm assuming Calvin Phillips starts again. I don't know if you guys have seen the clips on Twitter, but he's looked not the best going back. Not like he's not really tracking runners. A couple of the goals he looked kind of lost. So I think that lends to my next couple of picks. I think Martin Odegaard is 1.98 for a shot on target, and he's 5.6 to score anytime, which I think are both very good prices considering what kind of areas he's getting into this season. And then Calvin Phillips to be booked is 2.8. I think he's, Rodri is the same. Anytime there's a counter attack in their position, they're probably, they're being told, just take people down, just take the foul. So I could see him being tasked with stopping a few counters and taking a booking for the team.
Yeah, I think that sounds very fair, and I think I've got the same thing about Bernardo Silva, who definitely acts as that counter-attacking stopper at times, and he's so blatant about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking. There's a reason why Phillips and Silva are the 2 favourites to get booked.
Yeah. I'm surprised at the price of Mateo Kovacic to get a booking.
Yeah.
In case he plays, I think 375 for him to pick up a booking is quite generous. He's a tough one. I've gone for the mother of bet builders for this game because I think it's going to be a fun one to watch, and stuff will happen, hopefully, for the neutral. I think over 1.5 goals for Man City, over 0.5 goals for Arsenal, over 3.5 cards, Bernardo Silva to pick up a card, and over 3.5 corners for Man City. That's 12 times the money. I think the hard one, or the most challenging bit of that five-fold or bet builder is the Bernardo Silva card, but I think otherwise I really believe in this one.
That obviously concludes us for this week. Next week, we've got some really spicy fixtures. So let me just quickly go through what we have next week. We have the Merseyside Derby, which is the early game on the 21st. We have Man City Brighton, and then we also have another London derby. Well, we have 2. We have Chelsea v Arsenal, and then we have Tottenham versus Fulham. So actually, I should remind everyone that we have an international break next week.
Oh, it's so fun. Love international football.
Yeah, we love, obviously everyone on this pod loves international football. So those fixtures that I've just mentioned will be in 2 weeks. But again, boys, thank you so much for the pearls of wisdom, and we'll see everyone in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Sounds good.